What's up, Yele Nation? It's your girl Yele, and I'm here with a fresh new tutorial on how to create this high-low top that I'm wearing, that I'm stunting around with. If you need a tutorial on the shorts as well, it's also on my YouTube page. Go check it out. To create the top, I first of all need to make the pattern or a freehand pattern of the front part of the top. Now, the amount of fabric that I need to fold into two is going to be the my shoulder measurements, which is 7 inches, because the entire shoulder is 14 divided by 2 is 7. And then I will add the length of the sleeve that I want. So the longer the sleeve you want, the more fabric you are going to need. But the sleeve length that I used was about 8 inches, so I just added 7 inches, which is half of my shoulder, to 8 inches, and so I folded my fabric into 15 inches. Next thing is to measure out 3 inches and measure out another 5 inches from that 3-inch point. 3 5 on my 5-inch point, I went down by 1 inch, and then I'm going to draw a slant line from my 3-inch mark to meet the 1 inch that I drew down, and just draw it all the way to the end of my fabric, just like you're seeing me do, like that. Once you do it like that, your sleeve is going to follow your sleeve itself. Like, you're not attaching the sleeve separately, but once you do it like this, the sleeve is going to follow your arms, like by default, once you do use this particular method. Now after that, I'm going to then measure how wide I want my sleeve to be, how wide I want the turn up part to be, like where the arm goes in. I want it to be quite wide, so I think I used about 8 inches or thereabouts. So you can make it wider or you can make it smaller depending on your preference. So from the slant line, I went down by 8 inches and I marked that as well. Then I'm going to measure out my bust measurement and add about 2 to 3 inches extra to it. So it depends on what you want. If you want it to be wider, you can add more than that. If not, just stick to 2 to 3 inches. So what I did was I measured about 12 inches, and then I just drew the curve to meet it, like just the way you are seeing me do. And then I'm going to measure the length of the front. I want it to be a crop top kind of at the front, but I don't want it to be too short. So it was 20 inches I initially wanted, and I added 2 extra inches, 0.5 inches for the sewing at the top allowance, and another 1.5 inches for my M allowance. So that made it exactly 22 inches. So the length is going to be 22 inches, and I'm going to just draw a straight line from my bust down to the bottom of the top, just like that. You see, we're almost done with our nice top. So the next thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to that armhole part, go in by 0.75 and draw a slant line to the top of my sleeve. So it's just like a slant sleeve line, just to make it, a little bit stylish or whatever. That part is not compulsory, but you can just do it just to make it nice and stylish. Now for my neckline, I am going to go in by extra 1 inch on that slant, so that means my neckline will be 4 inches, and I'm going to go down by 3.5 inches, and then I'm going to draw my curve. If you want your neckline to be wider than that, you don't have to go in by just 1 inch. You can make it 5 inches. You can make it as wide as you want at the width, but the depth should not be more than 4 inches at the most. So now I'm going to cut out my neckline as you're seeing me do, and then I'm going to cut out my shoulder pads and cut out the arm all the way down to the rest of my top. So after cutting that, this is what we have left. We have this nice crop top-ish kind of front, and then now we want to move to the back. We want to cut out the back part of it. So I'm going to fold my fabric in this kind of way. For the back, you need about 1 yard, and then you fold it in a triangle kind of way, like you're making a half circle skirt. And then I'm going to place my front top on that half circle skirt, or the triangle shaped, the way I put it down, triangle shaped, and I'm going to put the folded part I'm going to let the folded part of the front face the folded part of the triangle, and the opened part of the top face the opened part of the triangle, just like you see me place it. So folded will be facing the folded, and then the open part will be facing the open part. And then when I placed it up, I know that now both of them seem to have blended with each other. You are not seeing the front pattern differentiated from the back pattern anymore. Both of them have blended. So I'm going to take my chalk now, and I'm going to try to draw out the shape, so you can try sort of like see the highlights of the front pattern that is different from the back pattern. So just follow my chalk markings and you might see the difference. Follow my chalk markings, put on spiritual glasses and discernment glasses, and see the whole shape that I have drawn. So do you see the shape that I have drawn? Okay, so I put my camera out a little bit to show you the entire shape. So I drew everything. Look at it. My camera is misbehaving, but it's all good. We thank God for everything. So you see, that's what I did. I just drew out the shape, even including neckline. So just draw out that shape, and then I'm going to join the end of the drawing, or the end of the shape. I'm going to then draw it to the length that I want on the other side. So the length I went for was about 35 inches from the top. So I just measured 35 inches on the other side of the top. I'm going to mark that, and then I'm going to draw a slanted line from the edge of the fabric all the way to the end. Now this low part, you can make it as long as you want. I did 35 inches. You could make yours 40 inches. You could make it 50 inches, however long that you want it to be. It is your clothes. You can do whatever it is that you want to do with it. So I've drawn my own slant line to about 30 inches because I just wanted to cover my shorts, the back of my shorts, a little bit, and that is just what I did. I just made the back about 30 inches long, or 35 inches long. Now after cutting the back pattern, you see it looks, it looks nice. It is long, it is wavy, it is drapey, whatever that it can possibly be. See me rhyming. All right, so after doing that, next thing now is to cut out the facing of these fabrics. The facing is to make the necklines neat, just mostly the neckline, because it's summer period and you don't want to line everything, so everything is not hot, and you're not hot and bothered or whatever during the summer, something like that. So I'm only going to face the neckline of it. So the first thing is to just draw out my neckline curve on a new fabric, like you're seeing me do. Then I'm going to measure out 2 inches round about that neckline drawing. So once I mark out my 2 inches all around it, from the top all the way to the bottom, all around it like that, and then I'm going to join all my lines together, and then I'm going to cut it out, and that will be the facing for the front of my top. I'm also going to do the same thing for the back of my top, the same process that I did. That the same process you're also going to do, or that you should also do for your back pattern. So I have my facing for my front like this. Look at it. I'm going to take my top and I'm going to put them right side to right side, the right side of the facing to the right side of the top. I'm going to line them like that, and then I'm going to also do the same thing for the back like that. Now I'm going to place it, and then what you do is that you are going to sew the neckline like this and then turn it out the other side. So this is what I have after doing that. That's the back pattern. You see, I sewed the under part, and I also searched the the neckline, and I searched the shoulders just to give it a nice neat finish on the inside. This is the front part. I searched the under, and I searched the the facing part of it. Now if you want to lay it down, you can always use needle and thread to stitch that facing to the main fabric if you want. If you don't want that, is also fine, as long as it doesn't come out or show up on the on the outside of your cloth. Now after doing all of that, now we want to move to the turn up part. The turn up, that is the light pink part of it. This is the fabric that I'm going to use for that. So I measured my armhole, and it was about 14 inches. It was 7 inches on one side, so the entire circumference will be 14 inches. And then I'm going to measure out about 18 inches with this my fabric. You want it to be a little bit longer than the armhole itself, so just trust me, do that. Make it about 1 inch more than the sleeve itself. And then I'm folding it into four like this, because it is two different sleeves, one for the right sleeve and the other for the left sleeve. And then I'm going to mark 5 inches, or is it 5 inches? Yeah, 5 inches. I think it's 5 inches. I'm going to mark 5 inches, and then I'm going to cut out my my little turn up, pink turn up part for the sleeve of my top. Now, after cutting it out, I'm going to split it into two. So each of my strip is 5 inches by 5 inches by 15 inches, or 5 inches by 16 inches, something like that. Each of that strip is that long, because you want it to be a little bit longer than, you know, the sleeve itself. So I'm going to fold my fabric into two like this and place my sleeve wrong side on top of it. So you see, the way I did it is the wrong side that is on top of it. You see, the wrong side is on top of this new strip of fabric like this. This new strip is folded just like I see me do, and then I'm going to go sew that on both sides. Now that I have sewn it on both sides like that, and now what I'm going to do is fold it over like this. Now, the reason why I wanted it to be a little bit longer is so that it can also meet up on the other side of the sleeve when it's time for you to sew it. So you see that extra, it is not really getting to the end as much as you want it, but if you made it longer, it will get to the end. So that's why I'm advising you to make your own strip a little bit longer than mine. I had to like doctor it, because I'm an expert at doctoring. I had to sort of like expertly doctor it in order to work for my own armhole. But for yours, you should make it a little bit bigger. So the next step is to sew the sides together. I folded my turn up like that, and I'm going to just sew the sides together. So this is what we have after that. The turn up is really nice. Look at it. That's the stitched part. This is the turn up part. It looks very nice and very well put together. I'm so happy I put this pink on the sleeve. It gives it, you know, a nice finish and a nice kind of edge. So the last thing and the next thing to do is to hem the bottom of my top. So that is the bottom of my top, and I'm going to hem it right now. Now, because it is a little bit circular in nature, it will not be easy for you to just like roll hem it, or like hem it naturally. So what I first of all did was I went ahead and searched the entire bottom of my dress. Now, after my top, after searching the entire bottom, I then folded it just once. I just folded it once like this, and then I ironed it all the way around. Make sure that you iron it. There is something about cotton, when you iron it, it sort of like shapes itself, or you know, it gives itself brain, it gives itself sense in order to lay flat when you iron it. So iron it, and then I'm just going to stitch all around I'm going to stitch all around the serged parts, or I'm just going to hem it that one time. I hope you understand what I mean. And once I do that, my entire top will be ready for me to flaunt and gallivant and feel cool inside. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Make sure that you tell your friends about it. Make sure that you share it. Make sure you comment in the comment section that you like it, or you know, whatever it is. I hope to see you again next week. And for your next sewing project, I'm recommending the next video that is going to pop up on your screen now. Bye for now.